Hi, this is Yolanda Van Veen from vanveenbulbs.com. In this segment, we're going to talk about when is the best time to water orchids. Books will tell you to water them in the morning because that way they won't be sitting in water all evening and not drying out, so that they have all day to soak up the water. You don't want to water them in the heat of the day because then they can get burned because the water sits on the leaves. But these are indoors, so they seem to handle water pretty much any time of the day, and whenever I get a chance to water them is the best time to water them. So this plant, and the easy way to tell when is the best time or when they need to be watered is when they're really dry. This one is still really wet. I'm sticking my finger in it and it's still wet. And a good way to tell is if I put it upside down and there's no water coming out, but it's still really wet, then I know that this one is doing really well and it doesn't need any water at this point. So it's fine. I don't need to water that right now. But this orchid feels really light. It's really, really light, and I can feel it is just bone dry. There's little moss in there, and it is so dry. And the leaves itself, too, you can tell they haven't had water in a while. So my rule of thumb is once a week, water your orchids in the heat of the summer. And in the winter, sometimes I go once a month, and I don't water them at all. So when I water them, too, a key that I found is not to use cold water. Make sure and use lukewarm water, closest to the outside temperature or the inside of your house temperature. So you don't want it too hot or too cold, more lukewarm. And I try to wash off all the leaves too, because they get dust on them. And this way, if you wash the leaves off, they can get air back into the leaf, because the dust covers them up and it clogs up all their pores, just like our skin. It clogs it up, so you want to wash all of that off. And I really run the water through it, because you want all the salt, other than the chlorine and all the other different contaminants that build up. So I really try to soak my orchids. And what I do too is, this one's so dry, is that I will just leave it for maybe 10-15 minutes with the water in it. It doesn't have a hole on the bottom, so the water's not going out, it's soaking inside. So that can be dangerous because you don't want that sitting in water all the time. So you want to make sure that there's no standing water. So what I would probably actually let this sit for 10-15 minutes so it can really soak up the water. And once it's pretty much soaked up too, I just pour all the loose water out, because you never want water sitting in it. So make sure that you always take all the extra water out. Another good thing you can do for your orchids is to actually wipe off the leaves. If you leave the water on the leaves, they kind of dry out and they make spots. But if you wipe it off, it's just like cleaning your face. You're wiping off all the impurities that can clog up the pores of the plant. So you want to actually wipe off your leaves here and there too. I don't go to this trouble every time I water, but at least once a month I try to really clean up my orchids. And they seem to do really well that way. And when you have orchids in bloom too, I wouldn't put water right on the blooms because I always trash them. I might mist them a little bit or stick them in the bathroom with me when I take a shower. They love the moisture. So the best time to water your orchids is when you think about it. We all lead very busy lives. And so when they're kind of droopy, they let me know when they need water. And I water them really well. But the key is to let them dry out again. Never let them sit in water, because you can kill them with taking care of them much more than neglect.